of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audio book on the course Mmpc 011 titled Social Processes and Behavioral Issues for MBA Program. Presenting Block 1 titled Introduction to Organizational Behavior. Unit 3 Evolution of Organizational Behavior Part 1.
Objectives. After going through this unit, you will be able to 1. Trace the early development of relevant conceptual foundation of organization behavior. 2. Acquire knowledge about the leading contributors in this field of organizational behavior. 3. Understand the classic theories and approaches towards organization behavior by early thinkers. Introduction. In earlier units, we understood the concept and approaches to understand organizational behavior. In order to understand further how the discipline of organizational behavior grew, it is necessary to know the evolution of organizational behavior. By understanding the evolution, you will be able to trace the rules and regulation to standardized and repetitive tasks and assembly lines being replaced with team-based work units. 3 individuals played important role in influencing the discipline of organizational behavior. They are 1. Adam Smith, 2. Charles Babbage, and 3. Robert Owen. Adam Smith was the first who said that by dividing different tasks, organization can gain in correcting them at the earliest. This he called as division of labor and also called as work specialization. Smith's thinking helped the organization that division of labor increased productivity by increasing each worker's skill and dexterity by saving time. This helped the organization in maintaining time loss and in creation of labor-saving interventions and machinery. Charles Babbage. Though Charles Babbage advocated Smith's division of labor, he added certain merits that accrue from division of labor. They are 1. It reduces the time needed for a learning job. 2. It reduces the waste of material during the learning stage. 3. It allows for the attainment of high skill levels. 4. It allows a more careful matching of people's skill and physical abilities with specific tasks. He also proposed that the economies from specialization should be as important as doing mental work with reference to physical labor. In recent years, we take the core as expertise among the professionals. If you look at doctors, they have different expertise to treat patients with different ailments like dermatologist, physician, gynecologists, etc. Therefore, when you look at the organizations around you, you realize whether they are manufacturing or service industries, they make wide use of division of labor. Robert Owen. He played an important role in the history of organizational behavior. He was the first industrialist to recognize how the practices adopted in the factories are demeaning to workers. Repulsed by these practices like employing young children below the age of 10, 13 hours workday, unhygienic working conditions, he became a reformer. He argued with factory owners for treating their equipment better than their employees. He also criticized them for buying best machines and to run them employing cheap labor. He argued that investment on employees is necessary for profitability of management and to end human misery. He was more than 100 years ahead of his time when he propagated in 1825 for regulated hours of work, child labor laws, public education, providing meals at work, and business involvements in community projects. The Classical Movement. The Classical era is from 1900 to mid-1930s. In this period, the first general theories of management began to evolve. The classical contributors are Frederick Taylor, Henry Fayol, Max Weber, who laid the foundation for the current management practices. This approach viewed an organization in terms of its formal structure and purpose. The focus is on work planning, technical skills, management principles, and assumption of logic and rationality in behavior at work. The approach emphasizes defining a clear organizational purpose, laying out specific objectives, and aligning responsibilities across all levels of the organization as key to improved effectiveness. Managers are advised to define duties and responsibilities and achieve work specialization through division of labor and coordination. Hierarchy of management and formal organizational relationships are key features of organization in this approach. Two main theories under the classical approach are A. Scientific management, B. Bureaucracy. The scientific management theory. F.W. Taylor, known as the father of scientific management, focused on finding out one best way to perform a job. He divided a job into a set of tasks and applied a scientific method to define the best possible way of doing each task in the job. He timed each way of doing a particular task and rearranged them to create the most efficient set of tasks to complete a job. His approach aimed to make work more motivating and efficient while compensating fairly workers based on complexity of jobs performed by workers. The key principles of the scientific management theory were 1. Scientific approach for designing every job. 2. Scientific approach to selection, training, and development of the workers. 3. Cooperation with the workers to do work in the most effective way. 4. The division of work and responsibility between management and the workers. Evaluation of scientific management theory. 1. Repetitive work and less skills learned on the job. 2. Workers treated same as other factors of production and were viewed in isolation than as groups. 3. Production managers acquired a high level of uncontrolled power. 4. Dissatisfaction among union and non-union members for heavily controlled work. Relevance of scientific management theory. 1. Importance to human behavior at work. 2. Workers viewed as rational, economic beings with underlying motivations such as higher incentives for higher output. 3. Relatively better industrial harmony through higher wages from increased output, elimination of physical burnout, matching work with skills, better coordination between management and workers. Administrative theory. This theory proposes universal functions that managers perform and principles that constitute good management practice. The major contributor to this theory was Henry Fayol. Being contemporary to Taylor, Fayol proposed that all managers perform 5 management functions. They plan, organize, command, coordinate, and control. These functions are universally accepted across any organization for any manager to perform. He argued that management was an activity common to all types of organizations. He proposed 14 principles of management. 1. Division of labor. Enhance levels of efficiency through division of workload, resulting in reduced time for final outcome, less supervision required, and develops expertise. 2. Authority. The right to give orders should always carry responsibility fitting to its privilege. 3. Discipline. Relies on respect for the rules, policies, and agreements that govern an organization. Clear and fair presentation of all agreements between an organization and its employees. 4. Unity of command. Each employee takes work instructions only from one superior, thus eliminating doubt and dispute. 5. Unity of direction. One manager for each organizational plan and a single plan for functioning within the organization, those deal with similar goals. 6. Subordination of individual interest to the common good. Achieving organizational goals to be prioritized than the personal and group ones. 7. Remuneration. Wages should be distributed fairly and impartially to all the employees and supervisors. 8. Centralization. Decision-making in hands of superiors, but the decision-making level should be left to the contingency factors of the organization so as to allow the managers and subordinates to equally contribute. No situation is ideal, whether centralization or decentralization, all depending upon the situation. 9. Scalar chain. The lines of organizational hierarchy and lines of authority for communication should be specified clearly and followed at all times. 10. Order. There should be right place for everything and everyone at the right time. Employees to be posted at the jobs most suitable to them. 11. Equity. Employees should be treated with kindness and justice. 12. Stability of tenure. The employee population should be stable so that people can learn the nature of their jobs and the larger context within which their jobs are performed. 13. Initiative. Implementable creativity should be encouraged within subordinates to bring satisfaction and motivation within them. 14. Esprit de corps. Teamwork, a feeling of cooperation and harmony, two-way verbal communication to be instilled so as to reduce conflict within team members. Structural theory. Weber, a German sociologist, identified key characteristics of a type of organizational structure called bureaucratic organization. He established that this type of organization has an administration of expertise and discipline. The key features are: 1. Job tasks are assigned as official duties for all job levels. 2. Clear division of labor and work specialization for every job. 3. There exists a hierarchy based on positions. 4. Uniformity or consensus of decisions and activity is attained through formal rules and regulations. 5. Employment is based on technical qualifications and aligned with long-term career goals of a professional. Stewart summarized 4 main features of bureaucracy as: 1. Specialization of jobs, then the person doing it to ensure continuity in case a worker leaves. 2. Hierarchy of authority establishes a clear distinction between management and workers and further levels of authority among management. 3. System of rules aim to achieve a formal and efficient process of work. 4. Impersonality implies assigning authority based on rules and not randomly. Evaluation of bureaucracy criticism. 1. Too much focus on rules, regulations, documentation, etc. 2. Executives show off bureaucratic status and authority. 3. Lack of flexibility in adapting to changing situations. 4. Over-secrecy on administrative procedures. 5. Impersonal relations can cause insensitivity to personal problems of employees and lack empathy towards them. Organizational solutions to bureaucracy. With increasing global competition and knowledge advancement, organizations in the modern world are moving away from bureaucratic systems and building alternate models. Few recommendations for building high-performing organizations in the modern world were given by Ridder's Trail. 1. More flatter and decentralized organization with broad span of control and reducing mid-level management layers. 2. Flexible organization that allows movement of people across functions. 3. Developing learning organizations where all employees are equally familiar with other people and their skills for better collaboration. This can be achieved by building a detailed inventory of core competencies. 4. Sharing of knowledge and principles by managers to workers for better cooperation. A good example of bureaucratic organization is public sector organization. They maintain uniformity of treatment, compliance to rules and processes, and accountability to the public. Mooney and Riley laid out principles applicable to all organizations. 1. The principle of coordination. The principle emphasizes on unity of action that requires all employees to work together with discipline and under authority. 2. The scalar principle focuses on organizational hierarchy, allocation of responsibilities based on job level, and the delegation process. 3. The functional principle. Need for every task to be specialized to differentiate between roles. Evaluation of the classical approach. Positives. 1. First theory that viewed management in a systematic manner. 2. Focus on common principles applicable to all organizations. 3. Focus on evaluating organizational effectiveness. Criticisms. 1. Lack of focus on personality factors. 2. Perception of organization structure where workers have restricted control of the work environment. 3. No flexibility in adopting flexible managerial styles and too much dependence on few fixed principles. 4. Concerns over application of the classical approach in practical world. 5. No focus on situational factors in the organization. 6. No focus on social and psychological attributes of workers. Structuralism. This approach suggests focus on both formal and informal aspects of an organization. The approach is a link between the early theories and the human relation approaches. Social man theory. Taylor, Fayol, and Weber are criticized for not treating employees as the basic core of any organization and that human beings are social animals. Mary Parker Follett and Chester Barnard were the two theorists who saw the importance of the social aspects of organization. Their ideas were taken into cognizance and not recognized until the 1930s. Follett felt that organizations should be based on a group ethics rather than individualism. Individual potential is not realized until it is associated with the group. She argued that managers' job is to harmonize and coordinate group efforts. She also said that managers and workers should view themselves as partners, as part of a common group. Therefore, managers have to depend more on their expertise and knowledge rather than the formal authority of their position to lead subordinates. Her ideas hold good today as the importance is given to motivation, leadership, power, and authority. If you look at Japanese, Europe, and American management styles are indebted to Follett's theory. They place great importance to group togetherness and team effort. Views on business management. She called management the art of getting things done through others and wrote about the issues of power, authority, leadership, and coordination. 1. Conflict. She defines conflict in terms of difference and not into the zones of good and bad. Conflict can be dealt with domination, compromise, and integration. Domination is considered to be effective but doesn't remain effective for long. Compromise involves sacrifice, so integration is the preferred way to deal with conflicting situations. 2. Power. She defines power as the ability to influence and bring about change. Power should not be understood as a forceful way of getting things done through subordinates. Rather, she believes in coexistence of power. She opines power should coexist and developed by superiors as well as subordinates. Her advice is to exert power through back and forth integration between two parties. She didn't believe in delegating power, as the same cannot be exercised in a genuine way delegated by the person. Follett asserted that managers' direction and power should flow naturally from their proficiency and skill. Hence, approaches of power over, power with, balance of power, equal power, integration, collective bargaining were discussed and initiated by her. 3. Giving orders. Orders should not be given, rather standard practices should be informed by the managers to the subordinates. Work process, work progress, and demand of work should initiate the order and should not be hierarchical, always flowing from manager to subordinates. Everyone in the organization should have complete understanding about the purpose of its existence, and that is how the orders can be accepted. Sometimes, managers must train and refresh the skill sets of the subordinates so as to indirectly give orders about the new way of performance. Managers in the organization must be prepared and trained to give orders to the subordinates so as to the attitude of the giver must meet the end results and the order should be viewed from organizational perspective. 4. Authority. Authority is not endorsed as per hierarchy. Rather, it comes with regards to the functioning of the employee. The authority comes with the responsibilities vested on the individual with their knowledge, skills, and experiences. Decisions should be taken together by managers and subordinates rather than accepting authoritarian instructions from them. That is, the last step only. The complete process for arriving at a decision, which includes the judgment and suggestions shared by the subordinates, is also part of authority. Open and informal channels of communication should be allowed in the organization rather than formal lines of authority. Ruling and obeying cannot be considered as authority, rather intermingling and fitting work as per the requirement in the organization is real authority. 5. Leadership. Leaders to focus on group tasks rather than individual tasks as employees perform better in group setup. Leaders should be fully knowledgeable, have proper knowledge of the situation and environment, direct group towards common goal, find new ways and means, and to evaluate the means used. She believed that a natural order between management and employees could be achieved through leadership. Leadership is certainly function based and not position based. This leadership was not, however, to be accomplished through the traditional use of formal authority by superiors over subordinates. She also encouraged managers to coordinate work activities through personal contact rather than through impersonal and leading structured work systems and written rules. Leadership qualities, according to her, is being sincere, being steadfast, encouraging, willing to serve, control over temper, and many more. 6. Management as a profession. According to Follett, business management should endeavor to reach the stature of profession, as business can learn from profession with regards to maintaining standards. Business houses to take the responsibility to educate people as well as bring more conveniences to them. Science or scientific approach should be applied on business so that everything can be handled and dealt systematically. Business managers must be trained professionally so as to deal with situations professionally and not personally. Impact and influence. Her emphasis was mainly on the behavioral approach to management theory. Being an empathetic community worker, she advocated issues related to working place of employees. She believed in group behavior and mutuality of interests between employers and employees. Writings of her are filled with submissive philosophy and values and are not dominant in style. She described methods of achieving integration and to explain alternatives to formal, authoritarian organizational structures. The makers of organization developments carry heavily from the ideas of Follett on integrative solutions to conflicts, the law of situation, and viewing behavior being conditioned both internally and externally. Chester Bernard. Though Bernard was influenced by Weber, he did not agree with Weber, who had mechanistic and impersonal view of organizations. He looked at organizations as social systems that require human cooperation. The main role of a manager is to communicate and influence the employees to meet the goals of an organization. The success of any organization depends on the cooperation by maintaining good relations with people, working external forces, or which organization is dependent, like investors, suppliers, customers, and other influences. By doing this, the organization can sustain themselves. Theory and philosophy. 1. Elements of organization or cooperation. Organizational goals to be balanced with the ambitions and aspirations of the employees, serving for it so that the organization functions efficiently. He specified principles in which employees can serve in a reciprocal relationship over time. He accentuated on the cooperative work integration of individuals, which is reflected in the form of team or working groups in the organizations currently. For example, few planners believe in creating work teams that serves as a robust building base for the organization. Teams are considered to be self-sufficient in terms of direction and supervision. Management provides objective by specifying each team their roles and goals of the organization. The teams then are made accountable together for their work performances. 2. Formal and informal organization. Bernard discussed the concept of formal organization and informal organization. The formal organization is a conscious creation between two or more people to achieve organizational goals. The informal organization gets born on its own with the personal interaction and bonding between the employees. Organizations must use these informal settings effectively to achieve the determined purpose. The determined purpose is achieved through proper channels of communication that are known and established. Managers and supervisors responsible for communication must be competent enough to transfer clear message to subordinates. 3. Decision making. Bernard's decision making was about the power of choice that vanishes if the number of alternatives are many. Hence, the process of decision means to narrow choices to the extent where executives or subordinates can deal with them. The art of decision making is a rational process characterized by organizational behavior more than individual behavior. The decision making process for the decision maker depends on urgency of the organizational need, no premature decisions, the decisions that cannot be implemented, and they should not make decisions for others. The analysis of organizational decision depends mostly on strategic factors and requires to be analyzed under the magnifying details of technical methods. The methods like chemical analysis, statistical processes, balance sheet, etc. He also recognized the essences of intuition in decision making that are rationalized to the outcomes. 5. The executive functions. According to Bernard, executives have the responsibility to instill a sense of moral purpose in their employees. The most important function involves communication to the team members. Executives need to instill the feeling of cooperation among the team members of the organization, and they need to think for their people than for their self-interest. 6. Responsibility and morality. Responsibility is the key to moral behavior for an individual during strong contrary desires. During the time of differences within the organization, these moral codes are effectively displayed through the individual behaviors. Organizations have their own ways of unique expression in form of culture patterns, assumptions, convictions, reflections, and belief system. These moral institutions maneuver the organizational vision and strategies. Impact and influence. He provided an important insight into the concept of organization and its social dimensions. Bernard discussed the concept of formal and informal organizations, wherein informal setting is present within the formal setting to create an environment of cooperation, integrity, practice teamwork, and unconstrained communication. Bernard's work sensitized managers in identifying the informal organization that promoted the effectiveness of recognizing and using informal workplace groups. Observation of their informal organization in the Hawthorne studies, work groups had their own leaders, influence systems, norms for appropriate behavior, social pressures and standards for acceptable and unacceptable levels of performance. Classical management thinking seeded managers to focus on the design and management of the formal organization. Bernard emphasized on the service of executive managers. He also mentioned about the duty of all the individual members as the basic strategic factor in the organization. He was the one who had laid the developing foundation to a great deal for the study of current behavioral dimensions.
We were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code Mmpc 011, titled Social Processes and Behavioral Issues. Course coordinator Professor Srilata. Voiceover by Renuka. Edited by Ashok Sharma. Program assisted by Tarannum Jaha. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.